to Photoshop Chapter 3, using mask and channels. We're on Lesson 3.2 Part 1, which is Vector Mask. Vector masks are a lot like layer mask. They basically achieve the same purpose, which is to mask or reveal part of a layer or image in Photoshop. And they achieve this by adding a vector mask or a layer mask to a layer, and then showing Photoshop what you want to reveal and what you want to hide. Now, just a quick run through with layer mask here. I'm on my layer Snake Boy here. I want to reveal him and hide all of this. So what I'm going to do is I can either just click Add Layer Mask, or I can go to, with my layer selected, go to Layer, Layer Mask, Reveal All, and it's going to give me a layer mask thumbnail, all white, because I haven't hidden anything yet or painted anything with black. Now I grab my paintbrush tool, and while I'm on black with my foreground color, I just start painting that area that I want to hide. Okay, now if I accidentally cover up something that I want to have revealed, I can just flip to white, go back and paint over it again, and continue on until I have my area painted. That's layer mask. What about vector mask? Well, with vector mask, the situation is virtually the same in the start, but I have to choose a path rather than paint to let Photoshop know what area I want hidden or what area I want revealed. So again, with that layer selected, I can hold Control and click Add Layer Mask, or I can go to Layer, Vector Mask, Reveal All, and it gives me again that white, all white vector mask thumbnail. With that selected, I can choose either my pen tool or my shape tools to let Photoshop know what areas I want to hide and reveal. I'm going to do the pen tool first, just because it's the hardest one, but once you get the hang of it, it's a lot better, because we just said that vector mask and layer mask are virtually the same. But what's different? What's different is vector mask, because they're raster images, they allow you to resize or scale an image without affecting the resolution, and you can scale it to any level. And that's because vector masks are resolution independent. In addition, vector masks have very clean, sharp edges because you're using the pen tool to create a path, and that is the best, most perfect path that can be created in Photoshop. It is well above any of your selection tools. The main reasons you would use a vector mask are when you want to cut something out of the background and you need clean edges, when you're making all kinds of design elements, including web design elements, and also for print jobs where you need the edges to be as sharp as possible. Once I have my vector mask thumbnail, I select my pen tool, and if you hold your pen tool down, you can see you've got a variety of options there. Freeform pen tool, add an anchor point, delete an anchor point, and convert a point, because you've got two basic types. You have curves and you have the straight lines. Well, in this case, we're going to have quite a few curves, and if I click just once and let go, I'm going to create a point that is the beginnings of a straight line. If I click and drag, that's going to give me that curve option. So I'm going to click once, and that's going to be that one point, and then I'm going to go here and I'm going to click and drag so that my point is a curve. Now what happened here is, until I complete this area, basically Photoshop is saying, hey, and everything is transparent now. Well, if I need to see what I'm doing, I can go to Properties, and I can drop down that density, and then I'll be able to see what I'm doing to continue on. So I'm going to click another point and drag, because I pretty much need them to be curves here, especially around his head. And click and drag. And as you notice, as I click, it's revealing more and more of my photo. And I continue on. And so I continue to make my points along my image until I have my image selected like I need. And when you get back to your original point, you'll notice, and I'm just going to click a few points here because I want that flexibility. You'll see that O pop up, and when you click, that completes your path. And now if you take a look in your paths panel, you'll see that your path is there, as well as on your layer panel in your vector mask, you can see your person is outlined. Now I can then come back and I can perfect my path, which is the whole point of using the pen tool. What about our shape tool? Right now I have a color layer, and then I also have a texture layer. And if I choose my shape tool and I go to custom shape tool, I can choose any of my available choices that Photoshop has available to me, and I can draw that in my texture. I'm going to choose the bullseye, a target, so to speak. Now in your options bar, you need to make sure that you're on the path, because if you drop that box down, you'll see that you can choose several things: shape, pixels, and path. You need to be on the path, because remember, that's what we're doing here. We're creating a path to tell Photoshop, hey, we want to create a path to let you know what to hide or what to reveal. In addition, if you're on, I would put it on exclude overlapping shapes, and you'll see why in a moment. Now, right now I'm on the layer that I want to add that vector mask to, so I can hold Control and click Add Layer Mask, or I can go to Layer, Vector Mask, Reveal All, and it's going to give me that white vector mask thumbnail. Now, if I hold Shift down while I draw my shape, it's going to constrain the proportions so that they're right and they're equal. And then when I let go, there it is. That texture layer I'm on, the path areas are going to say reveal that, and it's going to show that pink area through there. I can easily invert this by simply going, there are several ways I can invert this. I can either go up to, choose my path selection tool, select my path, make sure it's selected, which it is, and I can go up to my path operations, drop that down, and notice it's on combined shapes now. I could say subtract, and it does the opposite basically of what it was before. This time the path is showing that layer beneath, that color on that layer beneath, and the rest is the texture layer that I have the vector mask on. In addition to that, I'm just going to Control Z so I can show you. I can also choose my shape tool and go to rectangle tool, make sure you're on path again, and I can draw over the whole image area, and as soon as I do, my properties panel is going to pop out. But look what happened, it did the exact same thing. I'm going to deselect that path. I can also drag a vector layer, a vector mask, to another layer. So I'm going to show that layer 2 now, and I'm going to grab my vector mask thumbnail, or select it. I can actually copy by hitting Control C, and then clicking on that layer above and hitting Control V, and it actually pastes that. And if I hide this layer and select this one, you'll see my bullseye's in pink. So on this one, what it did was it copied that pink bullseye to this one. I can select my bullseye and drag it down, and look, it's revealing that texture layer underneath. Interestingly enough, I could kind of move it around and show that. And now, one other thing, remember I drew that rectangle square. Let me go to my history and go to here. Now I can select that square path, and look what's happening here. Vector mask is in that texture of that layer instead of the other way around. So there's a ton of things you can do there to play with that. Also, this works equally with an image. I'm going to choose a shape, custom shape, make sure that I'm on my path. I'm going to control click so that I have a vector mask there. And instead of a bullseye, I don't want a bullseye on my boy. I want, let's say he's a star. So I'm going to make him a star. I'm going to hold my shift key to constrain the proportions. And I'm going to draw my star as big as I can. And then I'm going to click on my path selection and just move it. And there he is. And now I could opt to do a couple of things. Again, I could create a layer, or I could go up to my path operations, flip it like that, and then move my star so that it's showing my boy in the middle. And then I can make me a nice color fill layer. New fill layer, we'll just go with a solid color. And say OK. And then I just need to put that underneath. And now my star is teal, but you can see my boy inside it. And I could make my path larger if I needed to, what have you. And so there are 1,000 ways that you can fool around with vector mask to get what you need. Now, I want to talk about one more issue, which would be gradient mask. A gradient mask is where you apply a gradient to a layer mask when you want layer content to gradually fade. Just the word gradient should pretty much tell you what you need to know there. And basically, I'm going to go to this item here and just deselect that. With a gradient mask, basically what I'm trying to do is I'm going to create a layer mask. In this case, I'm just going to use my vector mask. I could do this with a layer mask as well. And I'm going to grab my gradient tool over in my toolbox, and I can choose anything here that I wish. I'm going to go with black to transparent, or I'm sorry, it's a foreground to transparent. And then I could choose any of these items that I wish. And then I'm going to click, hold, and drag from whatever direction I want that gradient to go to. And notice what happened there. It added black here, but it went transparent. Now I can change that up and do 1,000,001 different things here as well. I can go and drag in a different direction. I can drag across, and it just gives you all kinds of things and ways that you can deal with this. In addition to that, I can, while I'm on a layer, I can drop my blending mode down, and notice what's happening here. It's blending this layer with my texture below to give me another unique look. I can try difference. Look at that, that's kind of cool. So there are just 1,000,000 ways for you to play around with vector mask and gradient mask as well as layer mask to achieve certain goals. And the one thing about it is that it truly is higher order thinking, because you really have to think, what am I trying to show? What am I trying to hide? And what's the easiest way for me to do that and set up my layers and set up my vector mask or my layer mask or do my gradient to achieve what I want with my image that I'm working with. One last area that I want to touch on with this lesson is feathering. There are several ways to feather a selection. You might want to create a layer mask or a vector mask that has soft or feathered edges. Now remember, vector masks are really more inclined for sharp edges. So this is really more something you're going to do with layer mask. But what if you want to create a mask that has soft or feathered edges? One way to achieve that would be to apply a gray color. Because in a mask, shades of gray are going to represent regions that are partially masked. Partially masked areas are going to appear semi-transparent. The darker the gray color, the more transparent the layer contents will be through the mask. You can also apply filters that will give you that look. And finally, you could go to your properties panel and you can change the feather here. Now, the first thing you have to do is be on your selection. And if you notice, let's see, if we go way up, it looks like, but it does look like it's softening those edges just a bit. And also, I can right click on any of my layers that have a vector mask, or for that matter a layer mask, and if I right click, I can disable the vector mask, and again I can come back and enable. I can delete it. Okay, so don't forget those options as well. But if you want to feather it, you're going to go to your properties panel. You can also, don't forget, drop that density down so you can see through while you create your path if you need to. Like I said, there are just tons of things you can do with vector mask, layer mask, gradient mask, and it really does require some forethought on what you want to achieve and what the best, simplest way to achieve that goal is. So, good luck!